Welcome back to Electron's Dance. This is the story of an appliance repair that I put off way too long, mainly because we suffered with the annoying symptoms for a few years, but also because the end result of the repair was so satisfying. Of course, it's always nice to get an important machine back in service, and even nicer when you can make the repair yourself. But what makes a successful repair really rewarding is gaining a true understanding of the root cause of the failure. Let me introduce you to the appliance in question. This is a Fisher-Paykel Dishwasher designed and manufactured in New Zealand. It is in fact a dual dish drawer, model DD603, which my wife took a fancy to when picking out appliances for our newly built house. What she liked about it was the ability to run the two machines independently. For example, running one dish drawer while unloading and reloading the other. And so it was a case of appliance bliss for a dozen years or so. I don't remember exactly when the trouble started, but at some point the top dish drawer started pausing mid-cycle. When we realized it was paused, pressing the start button would usually continue the cycle. Sometimes it took several such restarts to get the job done. My wife threatened several times to call in professional help, but I resisted the notion. Not just because I'm cheap, but partly because it's an unusual machine and I would bet there are very few service technicians in Alabama familiar with it. My preferred solution was to stick to using the lower drawer. But my wife quite sensibly continued using the machine as intended, alternating top and bottom. Finally, it became second nature to us to check on the top drawer frequently and give it a gentle nudge now and then. And so for the last few years, I've been pondering the failure. We had figured out that it was pausing because it thought the drawer was opening. But how did it know when the drawer was closed in the first place? Many times I would open up the top drawer and look around, under and behind, but I could not find a sensor to determine when it was in position. Now and then I searched the internet for discussions of similar dish drawer problems without finding much useful information. Recent searches, though, turned up a couple of leads, one mentioning a control module with a broken mounting tab, shifting around and pausing operation, fixed by securing the module with tape. In another instance where a Fisher-Paykel technician said the problem probably meant that the control module was starting to fail. All this made me think whatever sensing technique was used to determine open or closed status was internal to the module. Maybe a vibration sensor, maybe some kind of magnetic sensor. I was just grasping at straws. Finally, with the wife away on a long trip, I had a good opportunity to take the machine apart and poke around. And in preparation, thinking the control module might indeed need to be replaced, I looked around and found a used one for sale cheap online. This is where some purists out there might object to the part swap mentality, but professional repair people do this because it works and saves time, compared to deep thought and accurate diagnosis up front. This is one reason I would have a hard time making a living as a repair technician. Wow, revelation time. In studying the used replacement module, I found out how the sensing is done. See, along the top edge of the board, there's a row of LEDs pointing up to indicate the user-selected operating mode. But along the right edge, there are two different optical devices. What are they, and why are they there? Maybe one is an infrared emitter and the other a detector. Looking at where they are on the mounted control module in our machine confirms this, as there are clear plastic light pipes that match up with the emitter-detector pair. Looking at the outer housing of the machine, it turns out there's a plastic prism positioned to reflect the emitted beam back to the detector, but only when the drawer is fully closed. There is some kind of brown gunk on the ends of the light pipes. Insect Trax. Let's leave it at that. Maybe if I clean that off, I won't even have to repair or replace the control module. I did that, ran the machine, No such luck. Still stopping mid-cycle. Oh well, what's next? I removed the module and found more gunk on the inner surfaces of the light pipes and on the clear plastic window covering the emitter and detector. Might as well open the module and examine the circuit board inside. Lovely, quite a few dead bugs in there, along with more gunk. I don't have to spell out the composition of the gunk, do I? At this point, it seemed likely that I didn't need to replace the module. I cleaned it up inside and out, put everything back together, and ran the machine. The wash cycle was completed in one go. Hooray! In light of the failure due to contamination of the optical path, it's worth considering other types of sensors that could have been used. A few examples come to mind. A mechanical limit switch. Not bad, but the moving parts would be prone to failure, and the electrical contacts would wear out eventually. Kind of like the door sensor on our old clothes dryer that I've replaced a couple of times and need to replace again. Reed switch and magnet, maybe. A little more expensive, and the magnet strength would need to be chosen carefully. Too strong and the reed switch might get stuck on. Too weak and the switch might not turn on reliably. How about a solid state magnetic sensor and magnet? Still expensive compared to the optical approach, but probably quite reliable, even if quite dirty. All in all, the optical setup used here seems like a good choice. Relatively inexpensive and fairly reliable, despite the problems we experienced. It seems to me there's almost nothing man can build that insects can't take down. At the root of this particular failure are the progenitors of bugs that will outlive us all. If alien explorers in the distant future open up some of our machines after we wipe ourselves out with nuclear weapons, inside they will no doubt find insects living and thriving therein. It was really cool to finally figure out what was wrong with our dishwasher and fix it. Too bad I didn't do it a few years sooner, right? Good day.